And he has copies and he can hand those out. My name is Mim Nelson. I'm the president of Hampshire College, and we're so happy to have you here this afternoon. What I would like to do is to have each person introduce themselves, and then what we thought we could do, as opposed to reading off a number of questions that have come to us, with what I thought might be helpful is for each of us to provide just a very brief overview of the things we're working on, and maybe it might answer a number of different questions as sort of foundational questions that are out there. And then what we thought we would do is really just open it up to you in terms of the questions that you have, so that we can have it much more extemporaneous and in the moment in terms of the questions. And I like the ground rule here that I'm looking and seeing in bold, which is 2 minutes to ask a question and no more than 2 minutes to answer a question. So I'm not sure if somebody will be timing, but if we'll try to be as succinct as possible, and then we can certainly follow up. So I'm going to maybe start over here, and each person can introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Melissa Milstick. I'm the Director of Alumni and Family Relations. I'm also a Hampshire alum. I may have met some of you at Family Orientation or Family and Friends Weekend, so nice to see some familiar faces. I wanted to share just 2 things that I can speak to if anyone is interested, is how the alumni community can and does support students while they are here and after they graduate. Whatever happens at Hampshire, we have a wonderful community of alums out there who will remain committed to our students and new graduates. And then, since I do work in the advancement office, I can talk a little bit if anyone wants to know about student grant funding that's available for projects, Div 2s, Div 3s, that kind of thing.
Hi, excuse me. Hi, I'm John Slepian. I'm the Dean of Academic Support and Advising, and I'm also a faculty member in art. So I'm the guy whose job it is to pay attention to what's happening with our current students. So you can throw things at me. No, seriously, that's our job. Our job in CASA is actually to keep track of and make sure that all of our current students are working through the academic program.
Hi, my name is Susie Mitten-Shannon. I'm the Associate Dean of Students here at Hampshire. Also wanted to take a moment to thank all of you for coming this evening. I'm excited about the opportunity to share some of the things that we're doing in student life. The particular areas that I oversee are residential life, student rights and responsibilities, survivor support services. But I'm certainly looking forward to sharing information with you about what we're doing to support students currently, as well as some of our thoughts about moving into next year and the programs and resources that we'll have for students.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ava Rushman, and I'm the Vice President for Academic Affairs and the Dean of Faculty. Some of you may have met me at orientation. I work very closely with the school deans, as well as John, the Dean of Advising, and the Dean of Multicultural Education and Inclusion, and of course all of the faculty to make sure that we have a robust academic program, that we have the academic support services. And this is, I imagine, and I know has been a question that's come up, what will the academic program look like next year? And we're hard at work really making sure that we can offer as robust an academic program as possible, that all students have a full committee of 2 faculty members, that we have an array of courses, and that we have the support services. I have a whole number of offices and programs that are part of academic affairs, including Central Records and the library and CASA, Community Partnerships for Social Change, and a whole number of other programs. And so we just want to make sure that next year looks good in terms of providing these kinds of services for students, and I'm happy to answer any questions about the academic program.
I'm Jennifer Garrett Lawton. I'm the Director of Financial Aid here. I've been here about 8 years or so. And so what my staff and I are working on right now are for those people who have already reapplied for financial aid for the 19-20 award year, we're actually reading those files, getting ready to put packages together. We are reading files just as we always have in terms of assessing a family's ability to help pay for the Hampshire education. We're also packaging awards just as we always have for the 19-20 award year. When you, as some of you may know, your application due date is May 1st, and we will get your award notification out to your student, viewable on the hub by probably the first week of June, in plenty of time before you get that first bill from our friends and student accounts. So I can talk with you about more about that, what we see next year looking like, what opportunities there'll be for work study, and all of those things, any of those kinds of questions that you have.
Thank you. So we've tried to bring together a panel here that represents most of the areas where your students are getting their either extracurricular activities, co-curricular, in-class support. So we try to make sure we have everybody here. So I thought I'd just say a few things about sort of where we are right now. We are the Board of Trustees, we are actually meeting once a week right now. And we have also an on-campus options committee made up of students, staff, and faculty. And then we have a working group that is an off-campus options committee, if you will, that's made up of parents, alumni, and former trustees. And along with the board, these two committees and the board are really in the midst of looking at all of the potential options that we have moving forward. There are a number of different options, from completely independent, as we've seen with the coalition proposal, as well as independent but with a partner, as well as where we are not independent but we are making sure we enhance our educational model. So we're looking at a whole range of different options. We are using a set of guiding principles to guide this work around enhancing our reputation, progressing our educational mission, caring for our students, our faculty, and our staff, making sure that we have the potential for high impact, making sure that we continue our commitment to inclusion, diversity, and equity, and also how does this impact the Pioneer Valley, so our local community. We are on track, I hope. There's a lot of work that's being done by many. We are on track during this semester. At some point, the board is going to be making some decisions on what direction that we're going to move in, and then we're going to pursue that direction. Our plan, our goal is to have an open, non-binding phase of this, so this would be a time where everybody can get involved and engage. We are hearing a lot from people, and we're engaging a lot of people, but with the exception of the on-campus and off-campus options working group and the board, there's a number of different confidential things that it can't be beyond that for the moment. I was really happy one of the working group members who is an alum and also a parent said to me, it's interesting being on the working group, actually almost everything we're discussing actually has been in the public with the exception of some really fine details. So. And then we'll have this public phase, and then we will take time to make that transition. And the public phase is not a fait accompli. It's just it would be where we feel there is enough there between both parties, or whether it's going alone, that we can financially also do that. We want to make sure that we have that public phase for everybody to engage in. So there's a lot of work being done. I'm spending a lot of my time meeting with the board, meeting with our on-campus constituents, making sure that folks have the data they need to round out these plans. And we're going to try to keep everybody up to date as much as we possibly can. We do have special announcements, as people know, but the other thing that I would say is we also just post things on the President's Visioning website. That's where we've been putting the repository of information. So I'm going to stop there because I mostly don't want to hear my voice, but would be happy to take questions. But before that, I'm going to look to my colleagues maybe to provide just a little bit more insights before we, and I don't want to put everybody on the spot, but I don't know, John, do you have a few more things to say? That'd be great. Thanks.
I need to do this. I don't really like holding the mic. So I guess, like I said before, I mean, my main concern is actually dealing with our current students. And so I, with the Dean of Faculty, are dealing with how to make sure we have an appropriate academic program for all of our current students next year. And that means looking at their study areas and seeing what their trajectories are, and then whatever decisions about what happens next year will be based around that. I think I can say there's some of these questions I think are kind of worth just answering because they will maybe, people won't be anxious about them. I've been asked whether or not Hampshire credits transfer. They do. We are a fully accredited college by our regional accrediting organization, and we regularly, actually, during normal times, have lots of students who transfer out and go to other institutions. And I mean, I guess there are some exceptions if you take something weird that the place you're going to doesn't do or whatever, but for the most part, it's a pretty straightforward thing, and the fact that we don't have grades and all that doesn't really make a difference because you've taken a full-length, semester-long accredited course. So that's important to know. People have asked about medical leave. So our medical leave policy is exactly the same as it has been, which is students who are on medical leave, they apply for readmission, which is generally around some documentation proving that they're prepared to come back from professionals. And we're going to do that just the same as we always do. Now, we all know that we don't know what the future is exactly going to look like. I can tell you the next year is going to be very much the same as this one, minus our being smaller. But we're going to try to take all of our current students through to a Hampshire graduation. And being on medical leave doesn't change any of that. We're still going to have our Office of Accessibility Resources, not going anywhere. That's, I think, probably, I mean, it's possible that it may be scaled somewhat to be consistent with the number of students that we have, but I'm actually pushing for us to basically keep everything exactly the same as it is right now. So those resources will be available for your students just the same as they are now. Yeah, we're going to have the same academic program. Div 1, Div 2, Div 3, that's the plan. Will that stay the same in perpetuity? Hard to say, right? We don't know what's going to happen with our financial situation. But we have no intentions of shifting that, and I can guarantee you, I think I can say this, short of our not being here at all, that next year will be exactly the same as it is this year.
I'm following suit with John. Again, my name is Susie Mitten Shannon, and I'm representing Student Life. And so, as I looked through some of your questions, it seemed like some of them really fell to what's happening for current students on campus, as well as what are the program services and resources going to be in the future, knowing that we will be a smaller college next year. So, at our divisional meeting, which took place last week, we went around each division and announced what were all the different programs and services that were being offered to students. And it was actually quite inspiring for me to hear everything that was happening across the Division of Student Life. I jotted down just a couple of them, so I want to share with you a number of things that are happening for our current students. As I think about social and recreational programs, there's anything happening from bingo nights to mic nights. We just had open mic nights. We just had 45 students participate in a replanting of succulent plants. And we're able to take home a little piece of Mother Nature with them back to their rooms. So that was very exciting. Upcoming programs, a wild edibles event, which I was a little nervous about, but what I learned coming out of the outdoor programs office is that this is an opportunity for students to get together and walk around on campus collecting edibles, and then they will create a 7-course meal together, a feast together. Again, 246 students attend a night at the Eric Carl in February. So again, just a number of social and recreational programs. Our outdoor programs hosted students to skiing over the break to Canada in Vermont, where students were graciously hosted by some of our alums, so that was exciting. We're doing programs related to academic and life skills, programs related to organization of your papers, career service nights, making the most of Div 1s. I'm squinting at this paper, wondering why I'm not putting on my glasses. Okay, there we go, that's a little easier. Another event that just took place was called the Radical Practice of Care Retreat. And this came out of our wellness center where they collaborated with other offices. 26 students participated going away for the weekend, focusing on care and how do we care for each other and how do we care for one another. Very important, especially given all of the tensions and what's happening on campus now. Some of the things that the students shared with me was that it was life-changing for them, was that it provided bonding opportunities for them, but they were a little challenged by not having Wi-Fi all the time and being attached to their phone. So that was interesting. I smiled when I listened to them sharing that. Let's see, we celebrated our queer conference in its 10th year, welcoming over 500 attendees. This week is Body Politics and Empowerment Week. Right now, actually, at this time frame, in the Prescott Tavern, Survivor Support Services, along with many other offices, is hosting a speak out with performances and an art exhibit by students. So there's a number of programs and resources, actually enhanced programs and resources coming out of Student Life that is supporting our students right now. And in terms of moving into next year, that's exactly what we want to offer going into next year. There were questions that were submitted about what about our identity-based centers on campus, what about athletics, what about outdoor programs, and so on. So in terms of our identity-based centers, we are not intending to close any of them. We are actually not intending to eliminate any of the programs and services that we're offering. We may have to do reductions, as John talked about, right, with a smaller class size, so we may have to do reductions, but we're looking to have a vibrant outdoor programs here at Hampshire. Our students love that and thrive with that. We're looking to continue supporting, having resources, again, in all of our centers on campus. Lastly, I just want to mention some other questions that came up related to housing and residential life. And every year, it's right now at this time that students are engaged in thinking about room choosing for next year. It's usually a high anxiety time as students are trying to pull together all of their points so that they can get into an apartment on campus. That is the next step. So maybe I started out in Dakin or in Merrill, and now I'm excited to move to Greenwich, Enfield, or Prescott, where I can be in apartment style living. So this year, we're taking that tension away from having to worry about points and are saying everybody will be guaranteed a mod, and we're focusing all of our energies in the Prescott residential area, in Enfield residential area, and in Greenwich. So we're excited about that, and students will be going through that process over the next couple of weeks. Starting right now, applications are open for identity-based housing and intentional housing communities. Starting on mid-April through the beginning of May is when the lottery will happen. And then after that, individuals can sign up for spaces as well. So, thank you.
Thank you, Susie. So, do you have anything more, you want to say anything more about for the?
Sure, yeah.
That's great.
So John already talked a little bit about the academic support this year and going forward. We are continuing the James Baldwin program, the ORS accessibility support, obviously the library and so forth. And we are continuing the divisional system. So every student, current student, will be eventually doing a Division III project, independent project. I'm working hard to, or we're all working hard to keep as many faculty as possible, either here at Hampshire or connected to the college. I know some faculty will be accepting visiting positions in the 5-college area, and so they will still be here and on leave, but will be working with our students. So that's really my plan. Some faculty will retire, but we're very concerned about making sure that there are faculty here across the curriculum. I mean, there are always programs that are in very high demand, and we want to make sure that there are enough faculty in those programs, whether it's creative writing or theater, film, photo, video, but we also want to make sure that there is enough representation across the curriculum in the various areas of study. And I think John mentioned that we are looking closely at the areas of study that students have indicated to us. And we're working closely with the 5 colleges to expand the course offerings, so students can now sign up for 3 courses in the 5 colleges. Normally it's just 2. And I think we'll also work with the other colleges just in case there isn't an area covered, whether there are 5 college faculty who could step in onto committees, but we'll only do that if that is really necessary. But the 5 colleges have really stepped up in trying to support us and our students and faculty and staff, so I'm very happy about that, and I'm in continuous contact with the other deans. I think there was a question about whether Hampshire will remain in the consortium, and absolutely. I mean, it's always been one of our great strengths, and Hampshire will continue to be part of the 5 colleges. I think I'll stop there, and yeah.
I'll just add a few more things. I don't have too many questions on here directly, although I'm sure that parents in the room do have questions. But I have had a couple questions over the last 2 weeks that some of you may have as well, so I thought I'd talk a little bit about those. One was a parent was concerned that the merit scholarship that their student was offered when they were admitted would no longer be honored. And of course, as we've all said, for 1920, there are no plans to change that. So if your child had a merit scholarship, they will continue to have the merit scholarship. We, as I said before, will still read your financial aid application for those of you who are applying in the same way we have in the past. We do have you reapply every year, so if something changes in your underlying information, your income increases or your income decreases, your assets increase significantly, your assets decrease significantly, maybe you have one more or one less in undergraduate education, your family contribution may change, but that's because of the underlying information. And just to be clear, if your income goes down, you could expect a little bit more aid from us. If your income goes up, you can expect a little bit aid, and that's what would have happened anyway, despite the changes that are happening on campus. The other question that a lot of parents are worried about is that they feel their student really relies on their work-study job for either to help pay the bill or maybe buy next semester's books, or just so that they're not asking their parent for some walking around money every so often. I've been sitting in a lot of meetings with my colleagues across campus who hire work-study students, and I'm really happy to say that, without any prodding from me, they're really looking carefully at their office budgets, because they have to have the money in their budget in order to hire students. And they're really making sure that they keep enough money in that budget so that they can still hire students to help out in their offices, or to do that research, or maybe work on the farm. So I anticipate that students should be able to find a job. Now, I also know that sometimes you're hearing that students can't find jobs. And I just want to say that there usually are jobs available. They're not always here on campus. We have a ton of off-campus partners. They're nonprofits in the Amherst area, actually a couple in Holyoke as well. And also, so sometimes students don't want to travel to those jobs, and I get that. It can be a bit more time-consuming to get back and forth from that job, but it is also a bit more sort of real-world experience for them to actually have on their first resume. But also, often the jobs that stay open even on campus are jobs that start at 7 in the morning or run until 10 at night, or aren't the optimum hours that a student might want. So if you're talking to your student and they're really having a hard time, just send them to our office, and there'll be somebody in our office that can kind of help them look at the job board and see what jobs might be available, kind of send them there with some assurances that there is actually a job available. Occasionally we do have on-campus we do have on-campus employers who aren't great at taking that job down as soon as they fill it. So we're there to help them, so.
With all due respect, I have listened to much of what we're getting today in past days as a parent visiting the campus. That's not what we're here for today.
Thank you.
I'm here to get answers for what we all want, and we're losing our time for our questions.
Okay, so please ask your question.
My question is not a question as much as a statement. My child has been harmed. That is my statement. And some of you know because I've spoken to you in person. I have sought out many people on campus, from the Orr's office to professors to John. My kid hides in their dorm room. My kid doesn't leave their dorm room but goes to class and is struggling to focus. My kid wants the hell out of here. My kid waited for important information to make an informed decision whether or not to stay at Hampshire College. And by the time they got any information, it was too late to transfer. And now we are facing possibly missing a semester or a year of college so that my kid can choose the educational path that they want. Okay, so that's my statement, and I turn to all of you now to take control of this situation.
Yeah. If there is a college that one of your students wants to transfer to and the deadline is changed, let us know. I am making many calls to colleges. They are opening up their deadlines, so please let us know.
This is the first we're hearing that.
Yes. Hi, thank you. I am the parent of a Div 2, soon-to-be Div 3 student. My student chose Hampshire very carefully for the experience, the educational experience that Hampshire offers. He told me last night, and he put it very succinctly, that he feels like a careful consumer that bought a new car with a 4-year warranty, and now he finds out he only has a 3-year warranty. So we've heard a lot of assurances that current students will be able to graduate, but I think, as you know, most Hampshire students didn't come here to come in, get out, and get a piece of paper. He has invested a lot in his educational experience so far. He's developed relationships with the faculty, with his committee, and what I would like is some specificity around what it's going to look like going forward, down to numbers. So what can he expect in terms of faculty cuts that could impact his relationships, his course availability, his committee? What can he expect in terms of staffing cuts in places like CASA, which will affect how well he can manage his trajectory? And what can he expect in terms of cuts in programs? And lastly, is there going to be an incremental decrease in student aid? So I would like some specific numbers, not just reassurances.
The student aid, just answer, but you can answer that again.
Okay, so what's gonna happen is this place is gonna look the same as it is now, but it's gonna be smaller. That's really what it comes down to.
How much smaller?
How much?
Can you clarify whether that you're saying is smaller because of less students or because of less faculty, less staff, less
Everything.
programs?
Everything.
Can you give us some dimensional
Sure,
quantification?
absolutely. So we currently have, what, 1,100 students more or less. We're expecting to have somewhere between 550 and 650 in the fall.
How do you know?
We don't. We actually don't know. But,
Because you haven't asked anyone.
well,
Right. You haven't
ready to write letters.
asked anyone, you haven't spoken to the students
well,
about, you haven't reassured them, you haven't asked them to stick with you.
well, I have.
Have you? We haven't heard anything, and our students haven't either.
I mean, yeah.
They feel
If you want them to stay, they don't know that.
They don't.
Could,
They think you want them to leave.
yeah.
And I get, and it's not an impression that is that far off, considering the letter that was sent. The accepted students that were coming in, our students feel that perhaps you're in a hurry to close their school.
So, I'm gonna try not to talk too much, but I mean, I'll respond to that. I didn't have anything to do with that letter, but I did read it, and I actually read it at the same time that you folks did. And my boss and I, Eva Rushman, worked on a statement that came out after that, right? In order to reassure our current students. I mean, yes, it will be different. Yes, it will be difficult. That's because we live in the financial reality that we live in. But we have a responsibility to provide our current students with the academic experience that they started out with. And that is what we are going to do.
Right, but you keep referencing 1 year, unless you're a third-year student now.
You were very quick to offer aid to someone who wanted to transfer out.
Right.
I want to see one thing you've done to retain current
Yes.
students.
Yes.
So I hope it's more than one. We've seen nothing.
Well, I'm gonna speak on behalf of the faculty and staff who I believe are doing everything possible to talk with students, to reassure students on what the academic program and the student life program will be for the fall. John is right, we are doing estimates on what the class is going to be based on the fact that we have graduating students, we have a very small incoming class, and we are monitoring transfers, so we're doing the best estimates possible. And I think it's going to be an extraordinary year for these students. So I do. I've talked to so many, so okay, well that's what you have to say, but I think it is going to be an extraordinary year. And in terms of financial aid that you had asked, we've said we're doing the exact same financial aid packages for students. So
I think he spoke about
yeah.
out past next year and that didn't get answered.
Because we don't know yet, so, yeah.
Hi, I'm Sue Dalrymple. I just want to say something really quickly. A group of us parents, we got together and we wrote a letter and requested this meeting. And thank you very, very, very much for accepting this. I know it's hard. I get it. I do. I work for the state government, and let me tell you, I hear lots of complaints all the time about different stuff. So I get it. People are going to always be unhappy, but this situation from an outsider, it almost seems manufactured, and I think that's what scares a lot of people, is that nothing was really, there were no warning bells rung until January 15th. And I think that's why we're all so scared and upset right now, you know. And I'm just gonna real quickly just say, when my son got the email, he's a tough kid, he plays soccer. He's fighting fires this summer in Oregon. He's a badass, excuse my French, but he is. And he cried. So, my son cried. And I don't want this school to go away. I really don't. And I'm asking you guys to please, you know, think about going forward, moving forward. Just think about who you're impacting and why. With that, I'm going to ask one little question here. With the reduction in faculty and staff, will there be a reduction in tuition? Thank you very much.
We will not have an increase in tuition, it's going to stay level. So that was a decision made actually today by the board.
Hi, my name is Mary, my daughter's Julia. Can you hear me?
Yes, sorry.
So she's a Div 1, she loves Hampshire, she wants to stay here. She said, well, I've got to go find some faculty. So she asked a bunch of faculty, you know, would you be on my committee? And they said, well, we don't know. So yes, I think a lot of students are looking into transferring because there's so much uncertainty. Does she want to? No. In the end, will she? Hopefully not. So my question to you is, when I do the numbers in my head, you know, are you saying that you expect those to be the numbers, or you recommend those to be the numbers? That's the piece that I'm confused about. You know what I'm saying? When you say 550 to 600 students next year, is that what's going to be sustainable for Hampshire? Or in point of fact, that you're disappointed that you might be down to that many? That's what I'm not really clear about as a parent.
I think that's what we think is going to happen. That's, I mean, that was, I mean, the president asked me and our director of institutional research to go through, you know, look at the current students, the number of students we have in all of the classes, right? Look at the number of students we expect to be admitting in the fall, which as we know is very, very small. My office keeps track of both transcript requests and transfer requests. And then we tried to look at historical data to kind of make up some sort of way of estimating what we thought was going to happen in the fall. I mean, if we had 1,100 students in the fall, I think we'd be thrilled. But I don't think that's gonna happen. And so what we're trying to do is make what we have fit the number of students that we think we're going to be able to, that we're gonna keep. I mean, we're tuition driven, right? We all know that.
You could have had 1,100 students in
Yeah.
the fall.
Yes, you
You
could
could have
have.
had 1,100 students in the fall.
Whose fault is it you don't?
The board made that decision based on a lot of information and input, and we made that decision, the board made that decision on February 1st. We weren't going to have 1,100 students in terms of the predictions and targets for our
How
enrollment
many were we
numbers.
gonna have?
We estimated, I'd have to do the math, but we were going to be down to close to 1,000 students or so for the
Well, that's
fall
not that
season.
far.
I know, so, but that's not what drove the decision, so.
What did?
the desire to
manufacture
financial exigency?
The decision was based on a number of factors. I mean, I've done this in briefs, I'm happy to do it again. Well, so,
The letters we received clearly said that one of the main motivations for that was that they didn't feel they could guarantee that incoming students would necessarily have the 4-year
that's correct.
experience.
Yes, that's
And I
correct.
don't think any of us wants to see a Mount Ida situation.
That's correct.
So,
But we weren't Mount
That's correct.
Never
And
Mount Ida.
and relates to our accreditation and a whole bunch of different factors.
Sorry, excuse me, 1 second. However, what you're saying is that you can't guarantee that my current Div 2 student is going to have the same 4-year education. So why is a Div 2 student different from the incoming student? And how can you say that in one case, and it's been debunked by the legislature as far as I've heard, how can you say that, you know, we couldn't guarantee them a 4-year experience, and now in the same sentence, you're telling us that you can't guarantee our students anything beyond next semester?
And why is that okay?
We are doing everything we can, and our energy is going into our current students. That's where we are putting all of our effort, so. yeah.
Hello, my name is Thomas Grenzi. My son Nick is a Div 2 student here as well. And he's gotten a lot out of Hampshire, and we want Hampshire to stay here. And we want the Hampshire model to succeed. However, I'm a communications guy. And the communications coming from Hampshire, both from your office, from the board, and from everywhere, has been mixed, to say the least. And downright wrong sometimes. And I gotta say, I feel betrayed a little bit. And I think a lot of parents feel the same way. I want Hampshire to succeed, but I came here to hear real numbers too. And I'm tired of spin. I've been a spin doctor, it doesn't work for me anymore.
Well, our estimate is 550 to 650 students on the best estimate, given the data that we have for the fall, so.
For how long?
But then,
1 year, 2 years?
it all depends on what direction we determine that we should be going for our strategic options moving forward. That'll all depend, and our goal is to recruit for the fall of 2020, whether that's with a partner or on our own, that is the goal. So,
For what size class?
it will depend on which direction we decide to go. I don't have the answer for that today.
Will you guarantee that every student who's enrolled here now and wants to stay can stay here until they graduate?
I can't guarantee
Why?
it. Because of our finances.
You are been so uncreative.
I mean, our
Been
goal,
so
that is our
uncreative in
goal.
terms of your approach. I've run nonprofits. I've put together all kinds of crash and burn projects. You guys are thinking like so inside the box. I mean, you're not engaging anybody. You're not talking to people.
President Nelson, there are 2 outside fundraising groups right now working on raising pledges of $1 million
so Hampshire can stay independent. The reason why they're raising them separately is because they don't trust the administration and the board of this college. I'm on the alumni advisory group. We're trying to raise money for our students right now with the urgent fund drive for current students. We are raising that money in spite of people saying to us, we are not going to give money to this college as long as the present executive committee of the board and you are in office. Do you know how hard that is? Do you know how hard it is to raise money when development office has been laid off? There's one person in the admissions office. How the heck you're going to get students in 2020 when you've laid off the admissions office? I have no idea. We initiated the fundraising drive because fundraising stopped after that January 15th letter. The development office was told not to solicit major donations. We are doing it. We're doing your job because you are not doing it. There's a committee of faculty and students and alumni and parents trying to organize an alternative plan that the board did not develop. And they would like you to commit to no layoffs if those outside groups can raise enough money to pay the salaries that are needed for 1 year, while people who are smart, people who are dedicated, like these staff people up here, they are trying to do their job and they are not being given the tools they need, and I respect them immensely. Will you commit, if these outside groups raise the money to cover staff salaries for 1 year, will you commit to pausing and having a different course while we figure out what to do instead of rushing towards a merger or partnership? What's the best thing?
I talked about that with the board today, so that's a yes. And we're looking at, I can't say we'll pause, we're looking at this, we're trying to ascertain what the ability is around the fundraising. We're looking at all of those. We are making sure that the coalition group has all the data that they possibly need to do the work they need. And they will be presenting next week to the two options committee and the board, so. Yes.
I trust you.
Thank you.
Yep.
My name is Miriam. I'm father, parent of a Div 4. Div 3. I'm a Div 4.
Yeah, right.
I'd like to talk about the endowment for a minute. In 2017, unrestricted funds were around $12.5 million, according to the annual report. Right? At the end of 2018, unrestricted endowment was around 11 or 11.1. I believe that's accurate.
No, it's 1.4.
He's not done yet.
Okay,
No.
sorry. Well, he asked a question.
Last week in Chicago, the president of the Board of Trustees said that the unrestricted endowment is now 1.7 million. Is that an accurate figure?
I think it's right around, it depends on the day, but it's right around 1.5,
1.5.
Yeah.
So from 12.5 in 2017 to 1.7 now, where's the 9.4? Where's the difference? It was reported in Chicago that was used for marketing and consulting. Is that true?
It was used as part of, there were two ways, and please correct me, those that were here, with the sustainability, the financial sustainability plan was used in two different ways. One, to bridge the budget gap over the last few years, along with a couple of donors that also bridged the budget gap. And then the other was there were a number of initiatives within the financial sustainability plan that were funded. So those unrestricted dollars were used for those two purposes.
The biggest, my understanding, tell me if I'm correct, the biggest chunk of that money went to a voluntary separation and a path to early retirement plan for last year in order to reduce the overhead for this year's budget.
Would you be prepared to give us an accounting of those expenditures?
Sure, yeah, we have, it's in our financial report, but I'll make sure that it's posted, yes.
Thank you.
Previously, you told us that the budget deficits were only bridged thanks to a surprise dividend from the endowment and thanks to major donations from board members. And now you're saying that at some point, these unrestricted funds, which last time I checked were not that surprise dividend, those are two different things. Now you're saying those unrestricted funds were used for that deficit. So which one is it?
So I learned lately that part of the endowment was used to bridge the funds. I didn't know that beforehand. But it is true that very few donors did emergency bridge funds to balance the budget. And this year, we did have a one-time payout from one of our endowments that is helping towards the budget gap.
So on June 30th, there was 11.1 million. June 30th of 2018, in the financial report, there's 11.1 million in that budget as you took it over. Now there's 1.5 million. So there's $9 million unaccounted for. That, will you be willing to put that out there with the who got, where the money go and dates?
Yeah, so I'm sorry that the CFO isn't here, there was definitely not a surplus of money on July 1 of 2018. So I don't know the exact numbers for that, but
11.106684.
sorry, which?
11.
In 18th, July 18th of unrestricted?
June 30th, 2018.
I'll have to, I don't know that, so.
Excuse me.
Well, so, I mean, just to follow up on the one thing that I said before, just about that, which is the thing that I was talking about, which is multiple millions of dollars for the voluntary separation retirement. That money is actually being paid out now.
That's right, yeah.
Because those faculty are the faculty who are on retirement, for example, were given paid leave for this entire year as the incentive to retirement. So that money didn't come out until it's being paid to them right now. Does that make sense?
No, it wasn't 3.6 million one-time investment payout.
I know the purpose of the mic,
3.1.
right? The mic is intended to be the process by which we're trying to communicate. So, one of the things to help us as individual parents in making some decisions about how our child proceeds is that I think in the past, there has been the attempt to allow students to independently make these decisions and not, I think, avail parents the opportunity to talk with someone around the academics, current status and structure and options that's available for your child. And so I feel compelled that I would like the opportunity to have the venue to sit with my child based on her current situation, combined with being able to make some decisions about what we should be doing. And having that information available to us in a very open way will help us to make some decisions about what's the next path for our child, as consideration been given to affording us that opportunity.
I think that, what I will say is that you're welcome to come to our office with yourself. I have spoken with some parents already. We have a staff of associate deans who deal with the students in individual classes, and I am their supervisor as the dean of academic support. And I am happy to meet with any student who wants to talk about their academic program as it goes forward, and I am happy to meet with any parents who want to join that or want to meet with me separately. And all you need to do is contact our office.
The onus is on you to put that out there, not for us to come to you. That because of the situation, the onus is on you guys.
So if I said, if I had that thing that I just said emailed to every single parent, would that be a good thing?
Yes.
No, we can absolutely do that. Sure.
I would just like to go back to fundraising. If you're in financial distress like you've claimed, why in the world would you stop fundraising? You have these two outside groups that are doing that without benefit of donor lists, alumni contact information, because the optics look like you don't want them to succeed, and that's what it feels like.
Well, we've never stopped fundraising.
You know what, I'm an alumni
So-
and I'm a parent, I have never gotten anything
You're here.
since you've been here that hasn't been a regular, oh, we're collecting money. There's no mention of need, out of the ordinary, or anything that would have made people give more than they did.
So it sounds like more of a comment, so I'll take that as a comment.
It's a question.
Okay.
Why did you stop fundraising? And if there was such a need, why didn't you specify that?
So, in the fall, I met with almost all of our major donors, and I talked with them. Clearly, the way I was articulating the need did not motivate them at the time, so I take full responsibility for that. I'm continuing to do that through, I've met with several of our largest donors in the past 2 weeks. I have made calls with several of those largest donors. We have the AAG coming next week to be talking about the campaign that we've got. I talked with 3 past presidents this week, past trustees. I also raised $100,000 this week from a foundation. So that is a big part of my work.
Why haven't you reached out to the alumni group?
I have through the AAG, so, and talking with them, and I spoke with Carla today, who is an exceptional person, who is doing an amazing amount of volunteer work, so, I mean.
Everyone who you have contact information for should have been reached out to. That didn't happen. I have nothing
So
in my
I will do an
inbox, I have
appeal.
nothing
We
in
will
my
do,
mailbox.
well, we did do, I mean, I think that our campaign, Melissa, you might have more to say about this. 'Cause
I think you, when you say should have been reached out to, you mean prior to January 15th with a specific
Yes.
emergency fundraising.
Absolutely. Because you went to the end result without trying to do anything.
I think we
Would
could
you like me to
all-
answer the question about recent appeals? So,
No,
okay.
about the form.
Thanks.
I still haven't
She asked
received
the question.
anything.
I'd like to hear it.
Okay, well, about 2 weeks ago, the Alumni Advisory Group did send an appeal to all current parents, alums, and donors that we can contact by email. So if you didn't receive that, you can check your spam and things like that, and I'm happy to help you with that, or you might have opted out in the past, and you can always email us at alumni@hampshire.edu to update your information.
I did receive that. I haven't received one for the school. That's to benefit current students. There is a difference for the functioning of the school.
Okay,
I'd
it's a
like to
donation to the
return, if
college,
I
just to
may,
be clear.
I'd like to return to this question of counseling and access to support services for parents and for family. How many of you are familiar with the term transfer shame?
I can't understand.
Transfer shame is,
So I said that to you, John.
I really want to stay here.
Raise your hand. Raise your hand.
Yes, you
But
did mention that.
it's nuts, and I've got to get out of here, and I feel guilty for leaving. That's terrible. There are students who go to class and go back to their room and stay in their room. They don't go out, they don't go around, they don't go to clubs, because they want classes, they want a normal school experience, they don't want chaos. They don't want fear of loss of the programs and the institution that they've gradually bought into and love dearly. I would submit to you that the counseling that's going on here at the school is woefully inadequate. And I would ask you to please consider a proposal to get some independent, non-aligned, non-student additional counselors onto campus, centrally located, publicized to all the students, make it available as a facility to students who need a place to talk and someone to talk to who's not their parents, who's not another student, and is not aligned with the administration. I've gone so far as to make calls to 3 therapists here in the Valley area who are willing to work with your health services to set up such a facility on behalf of students. On the last page of what we delivered to you, you'll find their names and their telephone numbers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, so
So I want to highlight that point, which I think is important, the counseling piece, because my daughter's Div 1. And, you know, it was really sort of shocking for us at Christmas time to sort of get this. You know, I'm a trustee at a major university, I'm a trustee at our kids' independent school. So, you know, I used every network that I had over the last 2 months to sort of look at this. And the first thing that sort of came out of the whole debacle of the freshman class thing was they said they was putting the stick of death on the school. And that, I haven't said it to my daughter, because, you know, I want her to succeed and be here. So I appreciate how hard this is. Again, I'm a trustee on 2 schools. You know, the smaller school is very much tuition driven like you guys are. I really want to keep this meeting and the 45 minutes precious we have actually working on things as opposed to people sort of just doing the, you know, doing the emotional whatever, because I do think that has to come out, that some of us have driven a long time to be here to sort of answer the day-to-day things. You know, we're in the same situation as a lot of people where Div 1, we're exploring our transfer you know, that's not what our daughter wants. She doesn't need to hear from me that she should be looking for transfers. You know, I have people in my network in, you know, in colleges all over the Northeast that are saying, look, she needs to get the hell out. And that's not what I want to be telling her. You know, and you know, and I have, you know, her college counselor back at school is you know, from Smith, and her brother went to Hampshire, and it's just like an amazing thing. She's like, look, it's an amazing thing. I'll help you get where you got, but she doesn't want to do that, right? So, you know, the communication, I would ask that, you know, how can we, the action plan for the communication, you know, how back to helping the students, you know, the communication back to the parents, because we're the ones that get the phone calls, and if we're the ones saying, okay, have you talked to Amherst, have you talked to Holyoke, have you taken it to Torres Smith? Why don't you want to go to Smith? I mean, that's not what we should be doing, right? The students should be motivated to sort of, you know, understand what the real options here. And, you know, from an M&A activity, you know, I don't understand, and this is my one statement I'll make, I don't understand why you wouldn't have admitted the freshman class and been rolling through this in a quiet period, and then announce your options, you know, as opposed to sort of like airing all this out in the educational community. You know, again, it's and I'm trying not to be statement-wise, but, you know, again, using all the network that I have as a trustee, you know, it's just the whole thing's turned into a shit show in the Northeast. And so because of that, I would just say the communication really has to help, because we're the ones that are the support kids, we're the ones that support for our children, and they want to be here. Now, I'm also savvy enough to understand, okay, if you're at 50 million and change last year, if a quarter of your kids aren't coming back or half your kids aren't coming back, you know, you're going to be way upside down, so you're going to chew the shit out of the endowment. I get that, right? The unrestricted stuff is going to have to change a little bit to fund a lot of operations. I don't know that $3 million of donation is going to move much, okay? So I'd like to see sort of, you know, what are the action plans, and what scares me the most in this meeting was we'll talk about next year, things won't change, but all bets are off for the third and fourth year of our students. And that's what has me the most worked up, because, you know, there are financial realities, and whether it's a partner shutting down or going private or whatever, we know we need that, okay? So I'd like to understand, you know, sort of as much as you can, you know, more detail around that. I guess, I know you can't talk about these other partnerships, but, you know, if you can't talk about definite hard lines, like, look, honestly, where you guys are sitting, if we don't have an answer by, I don't know, April 15th we should transfer, 5/15 we should transfer. But what scares the hell out of me is that if you can't guarantee anything past next year, I mean, I think we're all probably telling our kids to get out there and do, you know, 5 college course classes. That's not what they signed up for, right? So, you know, if the reality is that after, you know, this conversation next year is going to be, okay, now we have 200 kids on campus, because just do the math. 550 is going to quickly turn into 250 or 350, and that's going to quickly turn into 175. That's the reality we're facing. So in the short term, you know, let's focus on what, you know, and I know there's not all the answers, but, you know, can we just talk on how are we supposed to help our children through the next 3 months?
What's the answer to that? So,
What's the answer to that question?
we are working with the board and the 2 committees. I know you've heard me. I'm going to tell you, if we had made a decision 3 months ago, it wouldn't have been as good a decision as I think we might have in front of us. So this is a big deal. We have the college's future and impact of this amazing institution that is more relevant today than it ever has been. And we need to find that future, and I believe in the next 3 to 4 weeks, we will be able to articulate what that is so that we can again be recruiting students and become a going, thriving institution. So our plan, and that is we're working towards, we are, the board, I don't know if others have said they've been on boards, our board of directors is meeting every single week to work, are incredibly engaged, as well as our volunteers that are out there. And so we very much expect to have some decisions about this by the end of April. So that is what we're working towards.
Going back to what you just said a few months ago, when I first saw the first email from you, from the school, it felt like it was a corporate takeover.
Yes.
Reduce product, reduce staff, hang on to the assets. My name's Tom Massa. Our son is Granger Smith Massa. He did one. Div 2. You're not the only one. He was excited to come here. He pretty much ignored all his other statements from all the other schools he applied for. He threw them away. He was excited to come just here. And it feels like you're not looking at any of the other options. I'm a paraprofessional in a public school who is also facing reduced population by a lot. I've been at that school off and on for 50 years. It's where I went to school. I had a graduating class of 100. Now they're lucky if they get 40. We understand the population growth and decline. We're looking at the options through a program called Mass Ideas of changing our requirements, changing what we're advertising, changing what we're showing. We have a huge campus. We have an elementary school that we believe is one of just 2 in the nation that is doing an agricultural program. We plan on now putting that into the high school. We're looking at other ideas. You have an agricultural program here. One of the other suggestions that I made in this program was that we have a plethora of authors, world-famous authors in this area. Just a couple of buildings right on the other side here that are a great asset. Why are we not pushing to look at other options? I don't know if you listened to, about a month ago, there was the president of Antioch College in Ohio, Tom Manley, on an interview, local radio station. He talked about what they did to re-envision. They only have about 175 students there. They re-envisioned their whole program in 2-year time span. And they are not only looking at solvency in the future, but they're looking at more students coming in. They're looking at a great incoming class. I just don't understand why you're not expanding, like somebody else said, out of the box.
Yep.
Thank you.
I mean, I would say, the Faculty Coalition proposal, we're looking at very closely. There's another proposal that we're looking at that is very transformative, that we're bouncing around and getting faculty feedback on, and the board is working on that. There's a lot of really transformative things that we are looking at. And we are an experimenting college. That's what we do, and I think it's really important that we are as innovative as we possibly can. This is a brutal competitive landscape right now in higher ed. And it is really frightening to see the rate at which these schools are closing because they simply can't keep up with the schools that have the $2 and $3 billion endowments. And it is brutal in terms of the net tuition revenue and the discount rates, and so schools are competing against each other. We have to differentiate, and we've really got to be doing that innovation, and we've got a lot of really innovative people that are working on this. So
I understand how brutal it is out there, but it feels to me like your experimentation isn't continuing. It feels like you turned off the Bunsen burners. You're done.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Karen, the parent of a Div 1 student. I guess I have a couple of things that go together. Somebody just mentioned the demographics, and that's a fact. you know, that there are just going to be less students, so we have to change. But there's a lot of passion for this educational model. It's unique, we need to preserve it, it's gotta change somehow. And so I'm wondering why you're holding on to, well, we can keep it the same for one more year. I'm really upset to hear that. That's not what I was expecting. And it also really troubles me that 3 former presidents from Hampshire College have aligned with the other groups trying to raise money. Why aren't they supporting? There must be some reason that.
So I can't speak for the former presidents. I've been talking with them. They're all I have all of the presidents with the exception of one that's in California, and another, there was an interim president coming to our house next week so that we can all be together to talk about all of this. I also have one former president that is presenting to the working group next week, so I'm very engaged with them. You know, so that's all I can say.
Can I just follow up just on the 1 year thing? Because I feel like I'm sort of the one who threw that out there to start with. The reason for me in my job and thinking about 1 year is that's what I know. Okay, I know what we can do next year because I don't know about all of these things. That's not my job. My job is to do as much as I can, as far out as I possibly can. And I know that, and so I don't know what's gonna happen after that, and that's the reason I don't talk about it. But, you know, so it's not like we have some sort of specific thing that we're only concentrating on next year. It's just for me, that's the only thing I can talk about. And I would like to be as reassuring as I humanly can be. And so that's why, for me, that's the thing that I choose to talk about. Does that make sense?
I think that's a good point. Sorry.
But that's exactly what President Nelson has just confirmed, and that completely contradicts what was said, that you would get Hampshire students who are currently students, to have them have the Hampshire experience all the way to graduation. Now you're saying that you're not. I understand your job only allows you to do that for 1 year, but President Nelson just...
It is our goal for our students, and we have articulated this. Our goal is that our current students get a Hampshire experience. That is what we're working on as hard as we possibly can. And so, I mean...
My name is Jenny, and I'm here, I traveled all the way from California for this. My student is two students. Okay. And I want to first of all absolutely agree with those who felt that counseling for the current students is critical. More than just, you know, open mic nights and things like that. Our students have been absolutely traumatized. And they need trauma-supported therapy and counseling made available without cost to them on this campus, but not a part of this campus. The trauma that they are living through right now and all of the uncertainty in a time of what should be exceptional growth is really, really critical. So I just wanted to reiterate, but that wasn't my actual point. Yeah, we can all look with 20/20 hindsight what's happened in the past 4 or 5 years and all of the board members that have stepped up and donated their own money. And we can say, yes, we really should have reached out to the alums and to the parents and let us know that things maybe were a little bit worse than we thought. What we now know from social media and from GoFundMe and Indiegogo and all of this thing is that crowdfunding works. You can raise lots and lots and lots of money, not by going to people who are your largest donors, who give every single year and who have donor fatigue at this point. We should have and we should be reaching out globally to anybody who supports alternative models, even little bits of money from lots and lots of people. And what I would like to ask from you is not only if we can raise money for the faculty for the upcoming year, but if there are enough people who can commit and say, if there is a larger incoming class for F19 so that you have the tuition that we need and we're not down to 550 students, would you consider pausing and reconsider admitting a bigger class next year?
The board is not reconsidering taking in a larger class for next year. That is just the way it is at this moment in time. So because the conditions under which we made the vote on February 1 haven't changed. So it's the same conditions. so.
So a 2-week decision, or a decision that we knew about for 2 weeks, because nobody outside of the board was reached out to, that decision was made within a 2-week window, and because of that, all of the crisis that has followed and all of the trauma that our students have been through and that the faculty and our wonderful staff that are trying so hard to support our students are going through because of a 2-week window that anybody knew that there was a crisis, that we've created now ourselves. We've
Well,
made
the
it so much
crisis was
worse.
here when I took over May 2nd.
Absolutely.
Hi, so I'm Robin Schulman, I'm a parent, and I echo all of the concerns that all of you have as a parent, but I also am an alum, and I have some concerns that relate to the gentleman who's in communications. As a parent, I started becoming more involved on campus when my youngest started here a couple of years ago, and I was asked to be a Hampshire Fund volunteer, and I dutifully made all of my contacts this December with people I went to school with, and maybe, I don't know, it was a week after that fund, after that big push that I was asked to be a part of, ended, that then this letter came out. And I really felt like that was a terrible communication. It was really a missed opportunity. And in fact, I also think it was an abuse of people who were asked to volunteer and put themselves out there, calling people they haven't seen in 10 or 20 years, saying, this is a great place, don't you remember how much it means to you? You should contribute. And I think my question really has to do with going forward. In order to survive in any form, we have to repair those relationships. We have to, everyone has sort of echoed that the communications have been piecemeal, they've contradicted each other, they've felt really scary, people haven't really understood what the big picture is or what's really even happening. And I want to know what you guys are going to do to repair that communication because, for example, I went on almost a full scholarship. My kid is getting incredible financial aid, but I dutifully give my $25 every year. I haven't contributed to any of these funds this time around because I don't trust the way people have been treated. I don't trust any of it. But I would love, if I won the lottery, my husband bought a Powerball ticket. If we win, I would love to give it to Hampshire. But I want to trust, and I think that the communication with the alumni and the parents has been broken. And what are you going to do to get us back?
First is to have meetings like this so we can be as much in person as we possibly can. I think we will send out an email to make sure that parents know that they are invited to come meet with us individually to make sure that we can answer their questions. We're trying our hardest to get as much information out there as we possibly can, both in person and in print. We are in front of people and in meetings with our students, with our faculty, with our staff, with alums, with whether it's electronically, whether it's in print, as much as we possibly can, and getting the information out there. So we are reviewing all of the communications that we are doing, and I'm getting suggestions. So we are working hard to build that trust, but part of it is making sure that we can be in front of all of you so that you can hear from us. So, yeah.
I have a question. Crystal Boystein, my son Omar is a third-year student here. My question relates to the communication directly from you as the new president, Miriam. When I searched my Gmail with your name, the first email that we got from you was September 7th. The subject was, what will Hampshire's future look like? And it's very interesting. I would suggest you all go back and read it because it's the next email we got that wasn't news at Hampshire from you was the January 15th announcement. And the initial email that we got that I just referenced was very promising and exciting, and it ended with the paragraph in regards to the 50th anniversary and Hampshire's future. Your perspective, expertise, support, and investment will be crucial to putting that process in motion. I feel so privileged to be working side by side with you in this effort, and I can't wait for us to get started. I'm curious what changed from that time and why we got such a shockingly and drastically different communication from you. And I mean, frankly, I'm wondering if you were hired to close the school. And
I was not hired to close the school.
Well, that's encouraging to hear. I hope it's true.
And I took the job on around the 11th of April. May 2nd, Jonathan Lash called me with the yield numbers. We were 20% lower, which is that's a 3-year lower number. I didn't start until July 11th. And it takes a little bit of time to actually understand a complex organization. Through the fall, through a board meeting in October, we did communicate with, I don't know if there was a parent letter, so I apologize if there wasn't, but we had a number of different assemblies talking about what we were potentially looking at, but I mean, it takes just time to spend time with people. I wish that I had had another year before I had to do this. You can imagine, I didn't get to know people. This is not what I expected spending my first year doing, but I was not hired to close the school. I have been hired to make sure that we have an impactful future and working with a lot of people to make that happen.
I just want to follow up on the general impression, the communication, all of that has led to the notion that the school is a mess and what are you still doing with your kid there and why aren't you thinking about leaving? And we get these messages about there are options and you're exploring options, and I get that you're exploring options, I get that you can't tell us who a possible acquiring university might be because you're in talks with them, whatever. But there's no storytelling about what one of these options might look like, any of these options might look like. What might it look like? The whole idea that there will be a full class again in ever. I have not heard that once in any.
Even if it seems like bad information, because certainty is better than uncertainty.
Okay, well, thank you.
Hi, I appreciate all of you being here, and I have to echo that I know it's been difficult, but for us, I think more so. So when I first got this communication, my son's a DIP 2 student, but we come from a radical educational background. He'd never been in school before, or radical in school, or he'd never been in an institutional setting. So I feel fortunate, my heart breaks for the kids that are here. That was my first concern, is the amount of trauma and stress that these are young people, they're kids, are experiencing. My son has an advantage, he's a little older, he's come out of sort of a different background, and I know he's talked a lot about sort of functioning as sort of a mentoring for some of the kids. We are in it for the long haul. We do not intend to leave. When I got the communication, I called CASA and 2 other offices, and I simply asked one question. Are you closing or not? And can he graduate with a Hampshire degree or not? And I was told definitively about both things, yes. I was told that on at least 10 occasions since you have been up and running.
Someone from my office told you that.
They said that there is definitely not an intention to close, and that there is a commitment.
Yeah, absolutely. That is absolutely true.
Students here can remain and can finish if they choose to. I caveated it with, it may be a different program, it may not be look the same. I get that.
Right.
If he's willing, and whatever bare bones is here to hang on, can he complete his course of study? Like many have taught, he didn't apply anywhere else. He applied early decision here. He didn't look at any other colleges really. So I am very interested in understanding, as a person who's spent my life as an activist and sort of a person who's very outside of the box, you have an amazing resource. You have an amazing community of alumni. You have incredible students. And you have land and resources that are worth money. I mean, there are all kinds of things. Anybody who's ever tried to organize a project with few resources, I'm frothing at the mouth. I wish I had your problem. I mean, it's incomprehensible to me why it's this hard. There are a billion things you could do with this campus. I mean, do you know how hard it is to get a room in Amherst when there's a football game? I mean, if you're gonna have empty dorms, do you think about, have you ever been poor? I mean, do you understand what it looks like when you're trying to get something to work? Do you realize that people will work for less than their normal salaries? I've worked for 9 months as a physician, not getting paid at all on a project that I started. Not everybody can afford to do it, but some can manage to strike by. Do you know that you could have faculty that might be able to be housed in dorms and accept less income? Have you asked people those things? If you don't ask people to do unusual, out-of-the-box, revolutionary stuff, they will not do it. But they can do it if they're asked. And your students can do it. And you're not giving them that opportunity. Tell them what's going on. Explain to them, well, dining hall may be a mess, and they may only be current, but this kid's a really good cook, and we can carpool to the grocery store. I mean, those are the things you need to be putting out there really affirmatively for people. Likewise for faculty. We may not be able to keep your current salary, but you know, if you can hang on for a year at half of it, and we'll give you a place to stay, we think we may be able to get through. Why aren't you doing that for people? That's what they need. That's what I think they need.
We're doing a lot of that right now. I mean, I don't know if Ava you want to do that.
Yeah, I mean, we're
What
having
are you
those
doing? Because
conversations.
I'm not seeing it at all.
Yeah, I mean, we're having those conversations with the faculty for sure, what the different kinds of options would be, whether some people would go half-time or part-time, whether they would share jobs, whether they would be willing to go on leave if they have a visiting appointment in the 5 colleges. So all of those options are
So
being
then why aren't you
considered.
sure that people can continue to stay? Why aren't you sure you can stay open? Why is there a question?
Because we have to, I believe that people work, if they work, they should be paid.
Obviously.
I just think there is an equity piece there.
There is.
That is a really critical piece. So if people work, I think they should be paid. And so that's something that's very important.
But the negativity, Mem, is really painful. I mean, there is not energy that's positive coming from the community. The day after I got the letter from you, do you know what my son's Div 1 advisor sent out? Because I sent it to your office. I sent you a copy. And it's not a criticism of her person. I'm sure she was freaked out. But it was basically a letter to all her previous students, one that she has advised and was currently advising, saying, transfer. Yeah.
I'm aware of that.
Okay. So, I mean, you know.
I mean, I stood up in front of the entire faculty meeting and with the assembled entire faculty and asked them not to do that.
Can you repeat that? Ask them what?
Not to encourage our students to transfer. Unless it's something that they themselves are interested in doing, and then of course we will talk to them about that.
Why did they do it?
Don't know.
Just a
Don't know.
quick follow-up, I'm sorry, to somebody who's waiting with the mic. Just a quick follow-up to the question about all of these creative ideas and all the wonderful things that you say that you're exploring. My understanding is that all of these wonderful options, other than being acquired or being merged or whatever the words are, strategic partnership, came out after the announcement was made that there will be a strategic partner and that there will not be an incoming class. And everybody was up in arms. Why did you not, between July and those decisions, say, hey guys, we got a problem. We've got great problem solvers here. Can you guys help us solve this? And as a follow-up, if the program or the coalition's plan or the re-envisioning, if that was just presented to the board and the different options committee, I believe it was this past week, how by the end of April are you going to have a decision that is an informed decision looking at all of the possible options when you're giving it less than a month?
Because I think they could do an amazing job putting it together, and they have a lot of data right now. So, woulda, shoulda, coulda. There's a number of different things. So all I can do is to look forward, bring as many people as possible. I will take all the blame you want to give me, but we have an amazing college. We have an incredible reputation in the world. This is why your students come here. And
right, you shouldn't be talking about closing it. Why is that even on the table?
It's not.
It's not. I don't want to close it. I mean, we have a lot of opportunities, and the key right now is to make sure that we can move forward those. We have to pay payroll. We have to have cash in hand.
That's why
we are
we need
looking.
students.
And I totally get that. We have land, yes, but I can tell you that the land, that's not something that you just materialize and make money out of. So a lot of these things take time, and all of these things we're looking at. So people don't want to hear it maybe, but I do remain optimistic because because of who we are and the people that I get to talk to about the future. So. And this will take this question and one more. So yeah, thanks.
My name is Suzanne Fortier. My daughter is a Div 2 student. She transferred in the fall of 2018. And for the first time, I think since preschool, she has enjoyed school. She loves it here, and so we were really appalled when we got that email on January 15th. I want to respond to something that John said earlier, that I have a question, because I was just shocked to hear you just say that the deans of the college are not involved in planning this re-envisioning. You don't know what's going on? How is that possible?
We have some deans on the.
Yeah, there are some deans. Yeah, there are deans who are, there's deans who are on the options working group with the president. So, yeah, all the deans, no.
Okay, I mean, I feel like you're the great minds. You know this school. You know
Well,
this
just
really well.
because people aren't on one of the committees doesn't mean we're engaging people in the idea generating,
He
so.
just said he didn't know.
Well,
Well, yeah.
So the other question I have, and this is, I know an email went out today. My daughter was one of the students who were with the food service workers who went to present a letter to the finance office.
Yes.
Security was called on the 2 representatives of the food service workers and 3 students who tried to enter the building. The finance office was locked, and the Red Barn was locked by security. I don't understand this. I just was shocked when I heard, and I called her to make sure she was okay. Is there gonna be food service next year?
yes, there will be food service next year, healthy food for the students next year. The first year students are the main, I don't know, you might be able to answer, Brett, do you want to answer this from
Sure.
Susan?
Yeah. The announcement that went out today, in case you didn't see it, talked about how we'll be closing the Dakin Residence Hall, which is our residence hall for first-year students. Most likely closing Merrill as well in our first-year quad. Merrill is a building that houses first-year students, currently transfer students, and some continuing students. As I talked about when I introduced myself, that the most sought-after housing on campus is in the mods. When students live in the mods, they do not elect to be on the meal plan, so we are looking to close the dining center and to focus our meal service options. You're gonna lose your. And to focus our meal service options on the Bridge, on the Kern, and in the Hamp store.
Food desert, Hampshire's the food desert.
Right now, we have 577 students in the mods. Out of 577 students, 76 are on some form of meal plan. And so we've serviced those students. They have roughly 53 meals a day based on those block meal plans. So aside from our first year students, that's what we're looking at in terms of students' need. So based on that, the decision was made to close the dining center, to increase efforts, enhance efforts at the Bridge, at the Hamp store, and at the Kern Cafe. We're looking to solicit ideas from students and feedback from students around food options that they want to have. Some of the feedback we've received so far is, what about mixed nuts? Can we increase student employment opportunities for mixed nuts to have that open even further? Students are asking questions about Prescott Tavern. So we're open to all of these options and moving forward, but that's what we currently have based on the reductions that we'll see for the fall.
But those
Will
are
you open a
students who
food
are
bank on
electing.
campus?
Those are students who are electing to be in the mods, they're not students who are being forced into the mods.
Nobody will be forced to be into the mods.
If you're closing the dorms, where are those students going to live?
I believe that I said that Merrill Residence Hall will remain open if there is a student demand. So right now, our goal is, again, students, I don't think you realize that how much students' anxiety have around trying to get into the mods. And there's very few students that want to live in the Merrill Residence Hall, right? So now we're able to say, take that anxiety away. You absolutely can have apartment style living if that's what you want. But we recognize that that's not something that all students want. So we'll see what the student demand is. I'm happy to have a community, a vibrant community in Merrill, and to make that work for those students, if that's what the students want. Thank you.
So one more question?
Yeah, so my son is Robert, I'm Jennifer. He has 2 more years left. He could not apply for transfers because he had too much anxiety and couldn't even fill out the Common App over this. So he's likely going to be in Hampshire next year. But if his advisor gets laid off, he doesn't know that he can get this Div 3. So who's gonna guarantee that he has advising that he doesn't have to travel to, that's accessible, that can really help walk him through that?
I do.
And if not, then who's gonna help him transfer to a school that he can actually get into? Because if he has one more year at Hampshire, his credits may transfer, but he won't have all the prerequisites and everything for the major to finish in a year. And most of the schools want you there for 2 years. So what do I tell him as a parent? Do I tell him to stay next year and we spend tens of thousands of dollars to have him flounder and have 3 years of college and not graduate? Or is somebody gonna help him? And is somebody gonna guarantee him that for the next 2 years, he has a place in Hampshire and can graduate?
Yeah, we'll guarantee that.
How?
Yeah, how? Know what it looks like next year.
The year after that.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, you think about my dilemma, okay? On the one hand, I don't know.
This is about students in the future.
It's also about my job. We are trying to come up with a way to support the students and also be fair and honest about what's going to happen, right? I don't want to tell people something that isn't true. On the other hand, I want to be here. I'd like to be here, personally. Like, I'd like to have a job doing the thing that I do now. So, I mean, yes, we will guarantee that your student has a Div 3 the year after next.
But will he be able to afford it? Because I can only guarantee financial aid for another year.
Well,
And I'm barely affording it as is.
I'm sorry, one last question, because you've said, all of you have said, please come and talk to us. I'm sorry.
I actually have an answer to this question to some extent. My name is Jennifer Hamilton, I'm faculty here, I'm also president. What John is saying is that what I've been telling my students is I don't know who's going to be here. I don't know if I'm going to be here. But I have faith in my colleagues that regardless of who is here, we will work to get your student here and get them the Hampshire education that they've been promised. No, I don't, but that's not right.
Can I just add that the same thing is from the financials aspect. I know that students need money to be here, and I'm gonna be there to be their advocate with whatever situation we come up with to make sure that if there are promises made about merit or other levels of aid, that is taken into consideration as we move forward.
So, thank you, everybody.
I'd like to make an announcement.
Okay.
Regarding the financial aid piece, next Thursday, the coalition is meeting here at 4 o'clock. The Alumni Advisory Group is beginning its retreat at 6, and it's my birthday. and I'm planning on attending all 3 events. And I'm also going to do something. I was born at 6 o'clock in the morning. It's the only time I've been that early. And I'm going to start walking from Sugarloaf Mountain at 6 o'clock in the morning. It's 17 miles, which you may have noticed the speed limit is 17. And I'm going to walk through UMass. I'm going to walk by the W.D. Du Bois Library. I'm going to walk by Emily Dickinson. I'm going to walk here. And what I'm going to be walking for is all 3 funds. And the reason the restricted fund is restricted to financial aid is because we want to make sure that there is financial aid money. That's why we lobbied for it to be restricted. We were told nobody would donate in a general fund anymore. We lobbied to be restricted to financial aid, faculty salaries, and student salaries. And I'm going to hope to have 16 people join me in Amherst, and people meet me here. We'll come up and ring the bell. We'll sing a song. This sucks. It really does suck. It's not our fault. It's not the students' fault. It's not the staff's fault. it's not the faculty's fault, but it's here. And we need to work together to make sure that Hampshire survives, it's independent, and it has a full faculty and staff for next year. If the board and the president will believe in the college the way we do, it will happen. So look for the announcements about the fundraising. Those who want to join me, let's raise some money and let's make it happen.
Everybody here has said you're welcome to come to our offices. Where is your office?
I don't have an office.
No, so where are you working?
I'm
welcome to come in.
What about your off-campus office? No, I work in the Current Center, I work in the library, I work in Styles, I work at home, I work in FHP here, I work in all over the campus, so I'm happy. Today I was working in the Current Center and I met with a student, I met with an alum,
So if I want to find you, you'll be here somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah, and I actually will send out an email to all parents with the contact information for contact.
Thanks for being here.